So, our last week biblical question. I have a brand new biblical question for this week. But we discussed last week biblical question in the fellowship yesterday. Interesting. And so my producer, he said a few things about it too yesterday in the during the fellowship. And then he said to me this morning in our meeting for preparing for the show today, he said, Jesse, something like, I disagree with you about the biblical question yesterday. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Let's discuss it. Don't discuss it right now. Let's do it on the air. He's like, oh, okay. So Sean is here, my producer. And Joel, too, he black. He agreed with Sean. So I asked Sean, you still want to stick to it? And Joel is here. He black. And so Sean is my producer, an amazing producer. And that does, when I say that to the ex-producer, that doesn't mean you weren't amazing. That doesn't mean you wasn't as good as Sean, just because he's better. And so Sean is my producer and one of the experts. To my right and your left. You right. And then Joel is the host of Joel Friday TV every Tuesday right here, and another expert on the Destiny Peterson Show. And so you guys disagree, I guess, right? I can't hear you.
Yes.
They bowing their head, but y'all can talk, okay?
Yes.
Right.
About, are you a pitiful person? Last week, biblical question. Are you a pitiful person? And you can podcast that to get an understanding. What part of that you disagree about?
Well, what I was saying in church and why I disagree is that, God lets us suffer. God doesn't look down on us in pity. One of the quotes I said on the show a while back was that God looks down on us with a tearless eye. Tearless not because he doesn't see us, but because he sees us so well. He doesn't look at us in pity. So who are we to look at anyone else in pity? Who are we to say to anyone, oh, that's pitiful? Or who are we to say to ourselves, that's pitiful? Because it's not us that's doing it. I disagree because I feel like we can't be not guilty. We're not guilty of anything. So we can't be not guilty of anything, but also be pitiful. There was a time where pity was like the worst thing that you could give somebody, worse than torturing someone. To pity them, to look down on them, to think of yourself as better than them was the worst thing that you could do to someone, to say, I pity you, right? So That's my point, is that to look at anyone and say that's pitiful is not the same love that God shows us, because he doesn't look at us and say that's pitiful.
Okay. And you agree with Sean, you say?
Yeah, I just think the main point that I was getting at as well in church is that, like, identifying somebody or self as a pitiful person is identifying with it being pitiful. And that was the point I was making in church as well, is that, like, we can do pitiful things and we can do good things, but that doesn't make us pitiful or make us good. And that's why I was also saying too, like, I'm not a pitiful person, but I'm also not a good person. But I'm just, like you say, a living being, and I do pitiful things all the time, but I also do what I would consider, or people would consider, good things as well. But I wouldn't identify with a pitiful person, because, like Sean's saying, you look down at the person that's pitiful, and then that's just another identity to me.
And what did I say was pitiful?
You said that, if you experience sadness, if you experience happiness, if you have fear or anger, those are pitiful. Those are pitiful things. You're a pitiful person. And so that's what I was disagreeing with. This could be one of those moments where we're just sort of saying the same thing, but have to use words, and the words
Right.
we use are confusing the whole situation.
Yeah.
Because we might not think of this, we might not be meaning the same thing by pitiful or by you, because
Right.
I feel like you could have easily said, no one is pitiful because it's not you. And we could have been meaning the same thing, but
Right.
but that's, I don't know. I was surprised
Surprised at what?
at your response, and that's
Oh.
yeah. And I was sitting in church and I was going, what? What?
You're like, what the?
What?
And what did I say was pitiful?
Well, you just said that that a pitiful, you're naming examples of what a pitiful person looks like,
Right.
and you say you're a pitiful person if you do A, B, C, or D, and yeah, it is in a way going against the message that you're trying to say, is that no identities.
Right.
But yeah, you're saying that if you do these things, you're a pitiful person, and it makes the person who does those things think that they're pitiful, and they may judge themselves as a pitiful person instead of just realizing it's not them in general. So yeah, the language just has to be expressed in a certain way, to point back to the fact that there's no identities, or else you do look down on people and stuff like that. People in general will look down on people if they identify with those things.
If the people identify with that, the person or the people who are looking down on them?
The person themselves will identify, which is not anybody else's responsibility, but I just think it's perfect. It's best to be clear with language. Like, for example, and maybe nobody will agree with this, but I think if no man is
I
good,
already doubt.
I think if the Bible's gonna say no man is good, and then the Christians are gonna preach no man is good, then that also means that no man is bad. But we don't ever think that no man is bad, and we always will point out the bad guy or the evil guy. But if no man is good, then how can a man be bad as well?
Are you a bad guy?
I don't think I'm a bad guy or a good guy.
Well, what is you?
A living being. But I oftentimes,
But I say, go ahead. No.
I was gonna say I oftentimes think I'm a good person, and that was a problem. Like, I think that I'm a good person. When I think I'm a good person, I set this expectation over myself, and then I set myself up, and then not myself, but Satan, and I end up falling and looking crazy. So it's like,
Did you feel silly yesterday after I told you ain't never done nothing good in your life?
did I feel silly? No, I just in the same way I just disagreed with that thing, but I didn't.
You still believe you've done good things?
Yeah, I think there's righteous things that we do.
Tell me one good thing you've done.
When I went, okay, for example, I couldn't think of one yesterday, but like, for example,
Hold that thought.
Okay.
Do you believe Joel ever done one good thing in his whole life?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
So, like,
Nice.
like, for example, thank you,
I don't
John.
know him really that well, but
But like, for example, when I went to forgive my parents, I think that was a good thing.
Why?
I think it was a necessary thing, but I think it was good in a sense of, it freed me up in a lot of ways. So I think I would consider that as a good thing.
You consider that a good thing?
I was thinking more about the prayer, and I assume he does silent prayer, and that's
You assume?
I assume. And if
Why
he's,
would a good man doing the good things need to do the silent prayer? No, I'm playing again.
he's doing,
Yeah.
as long as he's in prayer and doing the prayer, he's doing, that's good.
Have you ever done a good thing in your life?
Yes,
And what good thing you've done?
I did my silent prayer this morning.
Amazing. So when I said that I forgot everything I said. If you're happy,
Yeah,
you're a pitiful person. If you're sad, you're a pitiful person. If you whatever, you're
Yeah.
a pitiful person.
Angry Ellison.
Right. The reason I say that is because those things are not you at all. But if you think that they are, that's what makes you a pitiful person.
But then would it be that,
If you think you're those things,
Yeah.
because there is no you. But if you're thinking those things about yourself, then you are a pitiful person.
But even if we think about it, it's a lie, so we can't identify it with it at
But
the
people
same
who
time.
think that about themselves identify with the lie.
But we shouldn't, though. That's what I'm saying. Like,
But
if
they do, though. That's what I'm trying to tell them. If you do, then you're a pitiful person.
or you just are believing about pity or being pitiful. But I don't think it should be that person is pitiful.
But they are, though.
I don't agree with it.
What do you think about this? Sean?
Yeah, I disagree still. I mean, they're a lost person, but God's looking down. He's saying, yeah, it's not them. They believe it's them. And he doesn't look at it and say, that's pitiful. I'm just saying who is any human to say to another human that's pitiful.
Because it is. They have a false self that they identify with. And these things that in that false self, they think is them. And so in that, it makes them pitiful because it's an illusion. It's not even real.
But to further what Sean is saying, without repeating him, is that if you think about how God would speak to us, I don't think he would ever say you're a pitiful person. You know what I mean? Like, I think he understands that the reason why we believe this, we're believing a lie. He may say, like, don't believe, I don't know what he would say, right? But he may say, like, don't believe into that pitiful thought.
But that's my whole point. Don't believe that because it's not you.
But
Right.
it's similar to like feeling bad for somebody. Like, oh, I feel bad for you because you're in this situation. That's what I think about when I think of pity. Like I said, there was a time when there was the worst thing that you could do to someone is look down on them. I picture someone. It's always like in the movies, someone of like a. Oh, go ahead.
No, finish your point.
No, it's just someone looking down their nose at someone and going, I pity you.
But I'm not.
It means that they think that they're better than the other person.
But I wasn't talking about how someone else see you. I'm talking about how you see yourself.
Right,
If you see yourself as a happy or sad person, you're pitiful.
But then if I'm gonna
Meaning that you're seeing an illusion.
but if I'm gonna say that if I'm gonna identify with pitiful, then I might as well identify with good. I might as well say, well, I'm a good
But
person.
a pitiful person does think that they're good too.
Right, but neither of them exist. So then
Right.
why do they get labeled as that?
Because they label themselves. I'm not talking about with someone else labeling them.
Right.
They're doing that to themselves because they believe a lie.
But then somebody else can say, oh, well, that's a pitiful person because they're believing into that lie.
But it's not what someone else say or think, it's what you think.
But I wouldn't think that.
Pitiful people do think that. I do them all
Right.
the time.
But even a pitiful person wouldn't think that, they wouldn't on their own think that they're a pitiful person.
They do think that.
Oh, then it's a lie.
I know it. That's what I'm trying to tell. That's what I was saying yesterday.
But why not? I mean, I'm not telling you what to say. You say how you say. But I think that you should just be like, they believe that, but it's not true, and not identify them with a pitiful person, because it does sound like you're saying, whether you're not saying it or not, it sounds like you're saying that's a pitiful person, and you're making the judgment.
No, I said if you think these things about yourself, and here are signs of it. If you're thinking about yourself, you're a pitiful person.
Right, but
because there is no self.
At the end of the day, you are saying to someone you're pitiful. If it's coming from you, you're saying you're pitiful.
No, I'm telling them that if they're thinking that way about themselves, they see themselves. They think that they're a pitiful person.
How do we know exactly that, though?
By getting to know yourself.
Right. Well, I can see how in those moments I've said I'm good, I'm bad, and so it's the same kind of thing. But yeah, we shouldn't identify with it.
You're thinking about pitiful, meaning like if you're a pitiful person, that means that you're thinking of yourself as pitiful.
Yes.
I'm reading it in a different way, because when I say to someone you're a pitiful person, it means that I'm thinking of them as pitiful.
No.
Not that I'm thinking that they think that they're pitiful.
No, it's totally what they're thinking about themselves, not what somebody else is thinking about them.
Right. It's where the confusion lies. Because I'm sitting here thinking that you're looking at other people and thinking that's a pitiful person.
No. That's why I said, if you think these things about yourself, you're a pitiful person. If you think you're happy or sad, if you think you're rich or poor, if you think or compare yourself to others, you're a pitiful person. You're seeing yourself as a pitiful person.
Right.
But consider this, though. Consider this.
Is that clear?
Yeah.
but it's not clear to me.
Okay.
So like, consider this because
I know what the problem is too.
Yeah, and then tell me. But consider this is that like you're saying that if you think you're a pitiful person,
Right.
But you're saying that, and I know you get to know yourself, and oftentimes we think that, but you're saying that that's the case. You're projecting that that's what that person is thinking. You're saying that if you're angry or you're mad or you're happy, you see yourself as a pitiful person. But it's like you're making that statement and saying that that's the fact.
What he's saying now, I don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, it's this just confusion. Like we have to use these words to communicate with each other,
Right.
And they don't really do the trick.
Right.
But when you say if you have sadness, if you have anger, if you have happiness, then you're a pitiful person. It would appear as though you're saying you're pitiful. Like you're thinking that person is pitiful. I pity you.
But I was saying what? Now that you understand.
Now that I understand, you were saying that you're a pitiful person in that you think that you're pitiful.
Right.
You view yourself as pitiful.
Right.
But I don't
that's
think
not
that
what
word
pitiful
should-
means.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that should be used
What
at
pitiful
all.
me?
It means that I pity you. You're a pitiful person.
No, I hope most people pity themselves.
I guess if you wanted to say I pity you, you would just say I pity you.
Right. But most people pity themselves. People who join groups, they do it because they pity themselves. And they need to find a comfort zone.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if you like to use it, I just think that identifying with it. Yeah.
But I got to use it the worldly way?
The proper way, to me, I see it as the proper way of just saying that this person believes into pity, opposed to saying this person thinks they're a pitiful person. Because then it
Well,
almost
they
going to
do if
make
they
Yeah.
think those things.
Right, it's true, but then they shouldn't be thinking, they shouldn't even have the idea in their mind of pitiful person.
Correct me, but I know what the hang up here is.
All right.
That when it was happening, at the time it was happening,
Yeah.
it would happen. In
Yeah.
your mind, you're thinking, I need to say it a certain way. And because I didn't say it a certain way in the mind, you couldn't see it the way I was saying it. Because I wasn't saying it the way your mind would tell you I should say it.
I think
Am
that...
I wrong about that?
No.
Oh, go ahead.
Finish your point.
I just think that it changes the narrative of what you mean. Like, for example, when you say pitiful person, regardless of the fact whether it's they believe it, I believe it, you're still saying pitiful person.
Yeah.
And pitiful
but I
person is
wasn't
still
saying-
the wrong way
Yeah.
to say things.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, what?
Church.
Yeah, what?
Oh, yeah, there's a right way to say things and a wrong way to say. And there is a right way to say things.
Who said that?
The people who invented language.
Let me take a quick break. We'll finish this when I come back. And Hake was in on it too. And so you've heard Sean, my expert and my producer, and Joel Friday, you black, better known as Arkansas. And he, another expert here, about yesterday's Are You a Pitiful Person? And Hake had a little 2 cents he want to put in on that too. Hake is an expert here. He's also the host of the Hake Report Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific time, 9 to noon Eastern time. The Hake Report and an expert. You say?
I say there are pitiful people.
And why do you say that?
Because I definitely perceive people to be pitiful, and sometimes like myself. And my perception is definitely like pretty solid on how things really are.
And what do you think about the conversation yesterday when I said, if you think that you're happy or sad, rich or poor, black or white, whatever you're into, that you are a pitiful person if you think this way?
Yeah, those are the markings, some of the markings of being pitiful,
Yeah.
for sure.
And why is that?
Because you're not a solid person at that point. You're not like unshakable in your faith or whatever, like you're supposed to be.
Oh, okay. And what do you understand Sean and Joel to be saying about it?
They're talking what it seems like is that they've learned the it's not really you thing,
Right.
and they're holding on to that tightly, as opposed to just accepting the reality that the not you is makes you pitiful in how you live, and it's important to acknowledge that the way that you're living is messed up. So I think that it's kind of like clinging on to a lesson where it doesn't necessarily apply.
Oh, I see. And when you say that?
The definition of pitiful?
No, what he just said.
Yeah, I mean, that was part of it. You know, the not you was part of it, but the main point was that God doesn't look at us as pitiful, and that we shouldn't look at others as pitiful or look at ourselves as pitiful.
And so I think the point you guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, that I needed to say
That
No.
self-pitying
no.
is another form of that word. Instead of saying like, oh, that you're a pitiful person, you're self-pitying.
But you understand, I said that if you see yourself this way.
This is where, like, I'll go ahead. Sean,
If you see yourself this way, you're a pitiful person, right?
Right.
And pitiful means deserving or arousing pity. You deserve pity if you see yourself in this way.
Oh, but I don't think about that one.
That's
Because
the
that's so
definition.
shallow and intellectual. That means nothing.
Well,
And it doesn't make you free or anything.
this is how I just simplify.
But that's the meaning of the word.
Not in it's the meaning of an intellectual word, right, that keeps you in prison. Yeah.
This is just how I, to simplify it. When you
Ooh.
say pitiful person, it's a judgment to me. It's a judgment. Just like if I say I'm a good person.
Even if it's not me that's saying that about them, I'm saying
yeah,
if you see
even
that
if the
about
person
yourself,
sees it about themselves, it's still a judgment.
a judgment
And
upon themselves.
Yeah, and a judgment is a lie. So we shouldn't say I'm a pitiful person, even if they believe it. Those words shouldn't even go together at all, period. Now, obviously, if they do, the person shouldn't be hanging on so tight to them so that way they're identifying with it. But we might, as well, in my opinion, delete it completely, because if you identifying with saying I'm a pitiful person, they're a pitiful person, regardless of who's saying it, it's still a judgment that's false. So we shouldn't say it at all. Just say that's maybe a pitiful thing, that's a good thing, or whatever the case is.
I'm lost now. I don't know.
You
what you're
just
talking
shouldn't identify. It's a judgment. If you say good, bad, left, right, it's a judgment. We shouldn't have no judgments.
about. You bow your head in agreement.
Yeah, I hear what he's saying.
Okay.
I don't want to repeat what I'm just
Right.
going to repeat what I've been saying, but
Yeah, James.
My God, why have you forsaken me? Is the beginning of Psalm 22.
Right.
And David says, my forefathers, or the forefathers, trusted in you and you rescued them, and they were not disappointed. But I am a worm and not a man, disgraced of mankind and despised by people. All who see me deride me. They sneer and shake their heads, saying, turn him over to the Lord. Let him save him.
Who is this? Where is this from?
The Psalms.
Oh, I disagree with that.
And Jesus quoted that too.
That didn't do anything for me.
and that was David.
Yeah, David calling himself a worm. I think it's
So David-
I assume it was. Yeah, it says the Psalm of David.
So David calls himself a worm, and is God looking down on David and going, David, you're so pitiful?
In reality, we're all worms. In real reality, we ain't worth a dime. We're nothing. We're garbage.
That's true.
I agree
trash.
to that. I
That's
agree to
true.
that.
We're all worms. And
I
so
agree to
that's
that.
the point that I was making yesterday, that if you see yourself in either one of those ways, you're seeing an illusion,
But what-
because you don't exist. And then you're seeing something that don't exist. You are believing lies about yourself which doesn't exist, but it keeps you in an illusion when you think you're rich or poor, black or white, happy or sad. And when all those states of mind disappear, you'll be free. So you shouldn't see yourself in any way at all, period. There will be no state that you should see yourself in. And when you stop seeing yourself in any state of being, then you're in the right state.
But see, you're saying that on
and
one
in the
breath.
right state, there is no thinking about a state.
But that's 100%. But see, that's the thing. In one breath, you say that. But then on the other breath, you say, oh, this is a pitiful person.
I
This
didn't
is a
say,
bad
I
person.
said if you see
It's
yourself
the-
like that.
I know, but just the language that you use in general, just that I've heard you use over time, is just saying, and maybe you're not even realizing
Let's
that you're
do
using
it
it.
Sunday.
Okay.
'Cause I can't go right that far.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. It's just identity to me. It's like, but even and if we're gonna use the Bible, even though I disagree with that psalm, is
You
that
say that David was more than a worm?
yeah? I think that God wouldn't say you're a worm. I think that God wouldn't say
But
you're
he
trash.
didn't say God said it. He acknowledges that he's nothing more than that.
But he shouldn't acknowledge that he's a worm.
Why not?
Because that's a lie.
Why is that?
He's not a worm. God wouldn't say you're a worm.
But acknowledging that he's nothing is what make him see himself as God sees him.
Acknowledge that you're nothing is
Right.
good, but not saying I'm a worm, I'm pitiful. Those are negative. Those are those are
I know,
evil
but
words.
you can say things. You got to say things, but you need to be conscious of what you're saying. And by him saying that and being aware that
Yeah.
he's saying it, he's
Yeah.
not identifying with it. You got to speak, but you need to speak in awareness.
But speak in the
Because
proper
when you
awareness.
speak in awareness, you're not identifying with it. It's only when you're speaking in an unconscious way that you identify with it. You got to communicate. What the?
In the bigger picture, we're saying the same thing, but go
No,
ahead.
we're not.
Yeah, because
sir.
oh, go ahead.
So you're not saying that people who are lost deserve pity.
No.
You're not saying that.
I
Okay,
said that.
but that's the
I said
definition
if
of
they
pitiful.
see themselves that way,
Right.
they're a pitiful person.
But at the end of the day, when all is said and done, that is the definition of pitiful. It means you deserve pity. But the lesson, the lesson that I did take, like you said, the lesson that I did take from yesterday was that, I got to overcome words just as much as that, because I heard you say you're a pitiful person, and I assumed that you
Yeah.
meant the definition of pitiful, which
Oh,
is
that's deep.
you deserve pity.
That's exactly what
I thought you
happened.
were saying you deserve pity to people,
Even though I didn't say that at all.
but you did, because that you used pitiful.
No, I said if you see yourself that way. I didn't say you deserve, but you're right. You knew the definition of it according to the Google.
Dictionaries can be fake news though, because pitiful can be also pathetic, and people don't pity pathetic people. At least not in a I feel sorry for you sort of compassionate way.
So when you see other people's behavior and you think that that's pitiful, you don't also think that that's pathetic?
Sometimes, yeah, that's what it means, pitiful, not deserving of pity.
It-
Pathetic people don't deserve pity.
Pitiful people, if you say
Pitiful people don't necessarily deserve the pity. You're not necessarily saying that.
but I mean,
I'm just saying it's fake news. The dictionary is fake news.
In reality, though,
I hear you.
in reality, there's no such thing as a pitiful person. So even the Google definition is lying.
Right, there's no
That's
such thing
like
as a
saying
pitiful
that-
person. You said it though. That's what I'm
because
saying.
that person doesn't even exist. It's just an illusion.
So why say it?
That's what I was
To
saying.
remind you that it's an illusion.
But why not say? But you're saying that's a pitiful person. That's a pitiful person. That's a pitiful person. But
I didn't say
you're
that
giving
was,
life
I
to
said
pitiful
if you
person.
think that about yourself.
Lord have mercy.
Nick says, what does God looking at you pitiful have to do with looking at yourself as pitiful? But people don't know what you know, Joel.
People don't know what you know. People don't know what you know. But I don't know. I just think that's a setup to just identify yourself as a pitiful person, or even to
I'm
to
saying
identify.
don't identify yourself as that. 'Cause it's no
Yeah.
self to identify.
And I agree with that. Don't
what I-
identify with yourself.
Huh?
That's what I was saying.
Right.
But pitiful person shouldn't be
but
together.
What happened though, and I knew that's what it was, he got hung up on the words because he knew what pitiful meant, I guess, in the dictionary. And so when I said it, he got locked in on that, and that's all he heard. Am I right?
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't saying that at all. My thing is to destroy all illusion of oneself.
I agree with
Right.
that. I agree with that.
And I had an expectation of what you were gonna say, and I still, to be honest, I still think that it would have made equally as much sense, because we do have to use words and they're confusing, but it would have made equally as much sense if you said no one is pitiful because it's not you anyway.
But how
That's
would
what
you
I'm saying.
determine that if you're up speaking and somebody else speaking through you? How will you determine what you should or should not be saying?
Because you believe that, though. That's what I'm saying, is that, not to cut you off.
No, go for it.
Let me hear him first,
Okay.
and then don't forget
Okay.
your thought.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, we do have to communicate using words, and we have to agree on what words mean.
So
we
when
have
Christ
to agree.
was communicating with people, you think, and they were like, "What are you talking about? You speaking spirit, but that doesn't even make sense." Do you think he was considering who's going to understand it or not?
Well, he was. I don't know what he was thinking, but we have to use words to. We have to agree on the definitions of words. We have to. If we're not all on the same page, as far as what is love, what is hate, what is a man, what is a woman. If we're not all on the same page as far as what those words mean, then we're never going to communicate properly.
You agree with that?
Yeah, can I give my
Yeah.
reason?
The other.
Is that if a person truly understands what's being said, they are going to communicate it correctly. Like, for example, if because you're saying that you have no identities, right? But to me, that seems contradictory when you say if you believe this, you're a pitiful person, because that's creating an identity,
Because they have those identities,
Right,
And
but
I'm
they
telling you, those
shouldn't-
are false identities,
right? And they shouldn't have it,
Right.
So they should just say you should not what you should do, right? But I feel like the best way to communicate it is saying that, like, you're not a pitiful person, you're not a bad person, you're not a good person. These are things that you just do, and saying it in that way allows them not to realize, or not to say, "Oh, I am a pitiful person." Because some may go home after the church and say, "You know what? He's right. I am a pitiful person." It may be helpful, but then Satan can go in and be like, "Look at you, pitiful person. You're a pitiful person." And then they start identifying with it slowly over time. But so I
That's
should.
how
your
we-
imagination, man.
I'm about to
I know.
say that, yeah.
I know, but at
That's
the
playing
same,
mama with other people's
Right.
with other people. How you imagine other people may take to
and that's
understand
fair,
it.
and that could be true, but that doesn't
Like, you
mean
gotta
that it's
take
not
it
true.
for yourself.
Right? That could be true, but I'm just saying that. Let's just say there is a person who's thinking like that, right? There could be a person who's thinking like that,
There are a whole bunch of people think that way.
right? But
I talk to
Well,
them
why
every day in
give-
counseling everywhere.
why give Satan the foothold of even that idea when it can be replaced
What?
completely? Like, for example,
So
why?
you already had a foothold. That's why they think that way.
Right, but if pitiful person was never said, right, Satan can never get a foothold.
Yes, he does. You already making them think that way.
Right, but I'm just saying the language of that is not is counterproductive to your message, is what I'm saying.
What?
That's just all I'm saying.
I take it
Pitiful
back. I think
person is
people are deserving
counterproductive.
of pity because God had pity on us, and that's why He sent Jesus to save us from this pitiful mess that we're in. And it's pretty pitiful if you still live in that mess.
And it is pitiful, but I'm not a pitiful person.
Listen, let God handle that part. But it sounds like you guys are saying that there are certain ways that it should be said.
Am
Am I right about that?
Right. That
Are you saying that too?
There are certain ways that it should be said.
Yeah.
I guess so.
How are you going to determine that, though? If you, like the devil speak through you, when you
Yeah.
start to overcome the devil,
Yeah.
then God speak to you, how are you going to determine what way God should say it and when and how?
well, same reason
If
why.
he's just speaking through you, how are you going to? No, God, you should say it this way. That's
Well,
not. If we all going to
yeah.
understand the same language,
Yeah.
because language means this, you got
Yeah.
to say it a certain way. How do you determine that?
Well, that's the thing. That's like how some people believe partner is a husband and wife.
It's not the same thing
But
at
see,
all.
yeah, it is, because you believe partner is a thing, but you're
No.
automatically making it in your mind thinking like there's no other way, right? But other people believe that partner is a thing.
I don't know what Hassan thinks
Or some
about
people
this.
think that. Or some people
Well, I
think
didn't
that.
ask him because he wasn't there yesterday,
Oh,
and that's why I didn't ask him about it. I didn't know if he had heard it.
okay. I think it's about time we start calling Satan she. Who's with me? Who's with me?
Female.
But anyway,
yeah.
to let you know, folks, you are living an illusion. And to feel guilty, to put all these titles, you're still laboring yourself. It's what you should not be doing. You got to unload all labors,
Yeah.
no matter what they may be, because
hear
you're
you.
none of those things. That's the point.
That's the point.
That's the point.
Labels.
Labels. Real fast, guys. Joel first. Brand new biblical question. Brand new. Who or what gave you the impression you have of your mother and or grandmother? Who or what gave you the impression you have of your mother or grandmother and or grandmother?
Yeah, I never had a certain impression of my mother or grandmother. For one, I was raised by my mom on my mom's side, and my grandmother my whole life wasn't alive, so I never had that. But I also never had it with my mother as far as like making her a god or anything like that, because she never imposed that on me. But there was still a little bit in there making like, oh well, because she's a woman, because she's your mother, you should love her, you should not speak up. So I think that came upon, Satan just making me believe.
Are you reading
Yes.
something?
I don't know.
Like
I was
reading
looking this way, but no.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Satan. I think it came from Satan, though.
And so your impression of your mother is what? What's what or is what?
Now or in general?
And the impression you have of her from then to now.
Oh, my
Where did you
impression
get that from?
now. Well, my impression now is she's just a normal person. She's just a regular person.
But the impression you had before, where did you get that from?
Me believing that you gotta protect your mother. I think it just came from thoughts. I don't know where I got it from, to be honest. I don't know where that came from.
Sean, you say?
Catholicism.
Catholicism gave you an impression you had of your mother and grandmother and our
Right.
grandmother.
Yep.
What is the impression? What's the impression that you have of them?
Just that a mother is pure. They can do no wrong. In Catholicism, you have like Mary, and you have this. Just I feel like female worship in Catholicism.
Because that means religion.
Yeah, Catholic, Roman Catholic.
It gave you that impression.
Yeah, there's just in the culture of Catholicism, there's a certain worship of the mother as being
Oh,
as having not being able to do any wrong. And
yeah, because they even worship Mother Mary, right?
right.
Amazing.
Yeah, a lot of idolatry in Catholicism.
Hey, where you get your impression from?
Her and the devil and my dad and and the Lord.
Hassan, where you get your impression from? This is new, so we didn't discuss this yesterday.
Yeah, just also from my mother as well. Just from my mom and from the world, I suppose. Different.
And your impression of her is what?
I mean, up until recently, that she was God.
Amazing. Let me take a break. When I come back 2 more hours ago, we're going right to the calls and the super chats and everything. My experience.
I totally disagree with the way things are going.